welcome to FinTalk. Today, we're talking about why technology is not optional. In today's episode, we have a special guest. He is a Chief Tech Habibi and an absolute master with 15 years of experience in financial technology implementation. Ayman. Hey Ayman, how are you?
Very good, thanks. Thanks for having me, man.
Dude, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. I was so excited to have you. Your experience, all that you've done in terms of the technology implementations, software and so forth, just super inspiring. So I thought today's topic definitely had to be, me and you today. So super excited.
Pleasure, man.
Awesome. So let's start with a little bit of a background in terms of who you are, what you've done, and just over to you, my man.
Sure, man. Let's go right back. So as a child, from 2 years old, I was sitting on my mum's lap while she was working from home on her IBM computer in 1980s Belfast, believe it or not.
Belfast?
And yeah, Belfast, yeah.
What
I was
were you
born in,
doing there?
yeah, I haven't got the accent, but I was
No.
born in Belfast, so I lost that a long time ago.
Okay.
But yeah, my tech journey started from 2 years old, sitting on my mum's lap. She'd kind of say, press this, and I'd press it, and then press that, and I'd press it. So that's where it all began.
Okay, cool.
And then growing up a few years later, I was the guy that was fixing all the computers at home. I was 8 years old. I'd be building computers. Something goes wrong, I'll be changing the memory and all this. So I was like, my parents were both like techies. So my dad's an electronic engineer. My mum was a computer programmer. So it was destiny, right? And then I studied computer science at university. And when I came out of that, I kind of went straight into it was like a software company. We did enterprise property management software. And I kind of moved my way up the ranks there, started off in like a support team and ended up as a project manager in the end. But yeah, the whole tech has always been a part of what I do. And we got involved in lots of implementation work over the years. And then my last gig just before starting up Scope last year was working for Xero for 5.5 years. Number of different roles, kind of 4 different roles in 5 years there. The most recent one being kind of this head of the EMEA hub region, which was basically emerging markets in EMEA, helping Xero grow its footprint in lots of different areas. So yeah, that's when I really got my kind of fintech exposure and my accounting tech exposure specifically. And it's where I really kind of learned and appreciated the value not only of accountants in practice and industry, but also of SMEs and the value that they bring to economies. So last year when I left Xero, it was a natural fit for me to just kind of start this new venture at Scope when we're now able to help accounting firms, SMEs, finance professionals in the Middle East rather than doing it back home in the UK where I was born and raised pretty much. I was able to take that into this exciting new region. And here we are.
Amazing. Look, I just learned so much about you that I had no idea. Well, first of all, I got your introduction wrong because I said 15 years of experience. It's actually a lot more than that.
Probably. Yeah, go right back to, let's not reveal my age,
Let's
right?
Let's not. From the years that you've done in terms of Xero, right?
Mm.
So let's start with that. How was that experience? Because yes, you're working at Xero. How was that journey? What kind of things did you look into? How did that open your mind into how Xero impacts SMEs?
Yeah, sure. So when I first started there, it was 2018, and I was working in the UK market at the time. So I was leading a team of kind of consultants most of whom were former accountants themselves working in practice. And the role was really, let's lead this team to help accounting firms up and down the country navigate this digital transformation away from traditional accounting being desktop software, Excel, and into the cloud. So it's kind of digitalizing the journey. And it's really funny because early on, I'm facing lots of the same objections that I'm seeing today when we're talking to firms over here. But we'll get back to that. But yeah, at the time, it was really challenging, I would say, going into firms so early on and introducing these new concepts because no one else other than Xero was really pushing this whole kind of cloud accounting.
Yes.
The other major providers all had desktop offerings as well, so they were relatively happy, but they were kind of tentatively dipping their toes in cloud, whereas Xero, we were all about cloud. And we were going through hypergrowth as well, so it was a really exciting place to be. You're seeing the growth, 40, 50% year after year. Really fast-paced environment, lots going on, lots of ambition. You're working with really ambitious people. So I really enjoyed the working culture there, very people-centric. You're kind of running a revolution pretty much. You're revolutionizing an industry. Also very exciting. So yeah, man, really, really enjoyed it. And fast forward a few years, because I was there 2018, but in that 5.5 years, so much had changed. Xero grew up as an organization, but also SMEs and the accounting firms in the UK also went through a whole heap of change. And actually, things like cloud accounting software was almost a given by the time I'd left the UK. It was like so embedded in the ways of working. People were looking beyond that into what else this whole ecosystem can bring them.
That's such a valuable input, because you've just explained essentially a journey that traditionally, not necessarily traditionally, but you've explained the journey that started, in 2018, and how the technology landscape changed across the UK. Now, when it comes to technology change, traditionally we see these happening in the US first, then the UK, France, Europe, and then transposing over to the UAE markets and other parts of the world. How was it seeing the technology landscape changing? What exactly did you see that was essentially a waterfall type of approach? How was it?
Yeah, well, firstly, you started seeing businesses focusing on the internal value of the change. So often if you just go into them and saying, hey, this is going to revolutionize the way your clients work with you, this is going to change X, Y, and Z. If you hit them with kind of too much, they're, hit kind of with a bit of fear, kind of deer in the headlights type moment. So we really kind of had to break it down. And what we often saw as the first step was, hey, become more efficient internally. Get familiar at the same time. It's less risky, right? You can get familiar with the software and the change. And then you can start to kind of broaden your horizons beyond what just internal efficiency looks like, and start to add more value to your clients, making you more sticky. So I think that's kind of where it started. So initially, it was we're not too worried about dabbling our toes, kind of dabbing our kind of feet into this whole new software, which provided that it's not going to be too risky to our clients. Our clients won't necessarily know what's going on behind the scenes, but we'll be able to experience some of the benefits. So that was a really good way for like the accounting firms that we were working with to get a feel for what this change looks like, and they really liked it. So then they start experimenting with one or two of their clients to say, okay, let's get some of our more forward-thinking clients. And you can even apply this to internally, right? If you've got a change that affects a number of different departments, maybe experiment with a small department within your business, or one with some more kind of tech-minded people that might be helping you drive the change.
Yes.
But essentially, you want to get people on board that are going to give you confidence that this thing can work, and then it's just about managing that change going forward.
So it's essentially take them through a journey, and at the same time educating them as well. What were the main things that you were looking for in potential clients when trying to understand how keen they are in terms of going through this journey? What were the main, let's say, 2-3 things that you thought, this is someone that is aligned, this is someone that's looking for growth, and this is the best path forward? How was that like?
Often it's ambition as a firm. So if you've got a firm that is looking to grow, and often these are going to be, you've either got like, let's say, a startup, right? They almost always want to grow because they've only just started the damn thing. So like, it'd be a shame they're trying to, if they're already looking at retirement at that point.
Yeah, you'd hope so, right?
Yeah. But then you've got more mature businesses that perhaps have gone through a bit of a rut, and now they've recognized, maybe they've reached out to you, they've recognized that something has to change and they want the growth. Maybe they've passed the reins on. Maybe you've got like a partner who was close to retirement age, but he's passed the reins on to one of his children. I've seen this often. And that person wants to make a new impact, or you've got a new CEO come in. So a change of leadership of some kind is often a good opportunity to make a difference. And we've seen that as well. So that's one of the examples. So that's a couple of examples. So you've got startups, you've got people that have gone through
C-suite changes.
Yeah, a change at the top somewhere, and you've got someone in with fresh eyes that wants to make a difference. And then there's just like ambitious firms, those that recognize that, hey, to keep winning, maybe we've been winning, but to keep winning, it's not enough anymore just to keep doing what we've always been doing. we've all seen what happened to Nokia, right? They didn't innovate. Everyone had a Nokia.
Yeah.
They didn't innovate. Apple comes in with the iPhone. They're too late to the table. By the time they've kind of introduced Microsoft OS, they already had Android and Apple kind of leading the way.
Absolutely.
And now, who's got a Nokia? They're just not around anymore. And essentially, it just means that if you're late to the table, you're going to really miss out. So those guys that are looking to make a difference and don't want to kind of get all rusty and aren't resting on their laurels, they're the ones that you can often see they've got the hunger to make that change, and they're the brave ones. And those are the ones that will often kind of race ahead early on.
So those are the ones that are willing to invest into the right technology. What would you say are the biggest risks of not investing or avoiding investing in the right tech?
Yeah, so it's almost the opposite effect, right? So if you're not investing early, you're essentially chasing everyone else's tails. And that's a dangerous place to be, because you're always playing catch up at that point, and the market would have shrunk, and also you've got less authority in the market. So if one of your competitors has been talking about a certain thing for a lot longer than you, they've essentially got more credibility. Not only that, they've also done the experimenting and figured out how the technology is really going to help them.
What works, what doesn't work, the even better ifs.
Because it's not just about the software. It's not like, whenever I want, I'll buy this new bit of kit and then everything will be nice and dandy. It doesn't work like that.
Absolutely.
People are still a huge part of organizations. Technology can help them get better and do better things and do more beautiful things and do them quicker and smarter. But what it's not going to do is remove that element of, we've got to try things out and work out what works for us. And so those firms that move early will have that advantage. The other ones will be experimented essentially while maybe the market has moved on and expectations are higher. So then you're experimenting while expectations are high. You could very quickly lose credibility potentially if you mess up while you're doing that.
Absolutely. That's something we've really seen as we've been taking clients on board and taking them through the finance transformation journey, which is we're looking to set the tone in terms of not just the software and tools that we implement, which thank you so much for the support, but also the processes that we put in place as well, right? And some of the main things that we've seen is the things that arise for businesses that are techless, right? Do you have any examples of how these businesses are having to play catch up, and what happens when a techless business realizes, I really need to make a change?
Yeah, so the ones that, it's very rare to find a completely techless business these days. Everyone's at least got a computer, right?
Well, let's say not as techy as...
Sure, yeah. I think there's degrees of tech savviness.
There's levels to this game, right?
100%. So like everyone's using tech to some extent. But let's think of like the most forward-thinking ones and contrast them with the less forward-thinking ones, the ones that are more traditional, let's say.
Yeah, and let's also pick up on the cost of delaying this implementation too.
Yeah, sure. So those that are more traditional, let's say, the issues that they tend to have are the left hand not talking to the right hand. So they'll often have silos within the organization, or not only from an organizational perspective, but also from a data perspective, which is another important thing. So if you're having 2 records for the same client in different systems, there's going to be an inefficiency there, a loss of data integrity. The things won't flow as seamlessly necessarily between one system to another. You've then got someone has to intervene.
My co-founder is quite literally holding his head on his hands because he's felt this so many times across your sales software, right? And trying to get sales data, calculating commission structures and all sorts of stuff, but you're dependent on your finance team to be able to give you X amount of insights, and then you're stuck and it's day 10 of the month and you haven't been paid your commission. right? As a salesperson, for example, because finance doesn't have access to a consolidated report.
Yeah.
So crucial.
Or
Yet-
Jimmy in accounts hasn't literally gone into this system, extracted that bit, manually put it in, looked for differences.
use a VLOOKUP to figure out, is this data accurate, and then having to do another P&L just specifically for.
Well, this is exact. So this is the issue, right? The issue is there's lots of manual intervention needed. It takes time. It's error prone. And it doesn't lend itself to making the most of the time that you have to really deliver what your business is there for. Like these are, getting your employees paid is important, but it's not why you got into business. You got into business because you're selling cakes to someone or whatever it is that you do. Like there is essentially another reason for your business, and you want to have really efficient processes so that you can focus on the value that you're really bringing to your clients.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. So
Preach.
yeah, no, absolutely, man. And then the cost of it is, right, well, if we get something wrong, let's say, because there's manual intervention needed, then that could again lose us credibility in front of our clients. If we're slow because expectations are that things will happen more quickly, then again, service quality isn't there. It's not what you need it to be. It's also going to cost you money because you've got more people doing things that can be automated. It just doesn't make sense these days. So the guys that have done really well here, yes, they've invested in technology, but they've got it working because they've gone through the kind of the trials and tribulations of working out where the inefficiencies are, even in a integrated workflow. They can really see the benefits, and they can just immediately hone in on the value that they're getting from each system and use it for the outputs that they got it there for, and not for all the manual setup that goes around that doesn't really add value.
So the experience in being able to, or the experience of having enabled and implemented these tools and softwares is crucial.
For sure, 100%.
Right. What type of mistakes have you seen when customers, businesses, whoever, try to implement certain tools or processes and didn't do it properly?
Oh man, I've seen it. The most catastrophic thing that you can do, or outcome of trying to do something yourself that you don't know much about, is that you end up spending all that time, all that money, and in the end you ditch it because you say, hey, this doesn't work for us. I've seen that so many times. It's like, it's such a false economy not paying for someone to do it right.
Yes. It costs you more to do it wrong.
Yeah. And not only that, there's a huge chance that you will lose hope in that category of system, not even just that system, that category of system. And you'll say, oh no, we've tried that.
Doesn't
we
work.
Tried getting a CRM. It didn't work.
Our business is too complex for this.
Yeah.
Right? How many times have you heard a business saying, yeah, our inventory management is too complex, we're going to have to stick with our Excel?
Yeah. I've even heard like, oh, we're quite tech savvy, oh, we'll be fine. It's like, tech isn't all the same. Like, you're not going to, I'm tech savvy, right? I'm not going to be redeveloping the system of an aircraft anytime soon. It's just not my field. Like, there is tech savviness, and there's also knowledge of a specific domain, and it's important that, even experts need experts sometimes.
Yes, absolutely.
There's no shame in it.
That's the purpose of an SME, a subject matter expert.
Yeah.
You are an expert at what you do. There's going to be sub-segments of what you do that you may not have that level of detail. So being able to select the right partners to do so, it's imperative for your success.
100%. So yeah, there's a huge cost for not getting it right, and for under-investing in these things, and for overestimating your own not only capabilities, but also the amount of time that you'd have to invest in this thing to make it work. When actually, again, you may be better off, in most cases, focusing on the value that you're giving to your clients.
Just absolutely spot on. Honestly, there's nothing more I can add to that. That was just a beautiful statement. When it comes to deploy implementations, when it comes to the times where someone comes into the business, right, and they're incredibly ambitious. They want to be able to look at the current as is processes and improve them. They don't really understand what the 2B needs to look like, but they have a North Star. What type of things do you analyze, right, to be able to define where they are today and what they need to be able to get to where they need to get to?
Yeah, so I mean, having a North Star is a good place to start for sure. You then need to break that down into different layers. So the way I've done this in the past is, yeah, define that North Star, and it's often got to be very specific and measurable. These kind of, these kind of smart objectives, yes. Right? Smart, that's really important for your North Star, is to be smart. And
so you need to have smart objectives.
Yeah. So we need to have smart objectives. They need to have a North Star which is measurable, it's time bound, it's realistic as well, and it's very specific. And then from the back of that, you can kind of go down to different levels which make up that North Star. So it could be, for example, you might have a sales element, right? You might say, we want to make X amount of revenue. We want to make it by this date. And we want to do it in this specific geography, etc., etc. And then from there, you can actually start building up essentially objectives that make up that overall North Star. And then you can have like specific projects that will kind of lead up to that, to each objectives, and make sure that you're attaining them. So you can look at the different activities that you're doing as a business, the different projects, and make sure you're measuring the right things that get you to closer to that goal. And you need to be constantly revisiting those and making sure that those in your team, those that are affected, know that you're doing this. So like, it's all good and well having a vision that you might state once a year to your company, but it's another thing altogether bringing it up all the time. It's so easy to like have this grand vision at the start of a year, and then it just fizzles away the more and more the year comes on. And then you do your kickoff again next year.
Yes.
And then you've got another one. And it's like, hey, what happened to that last one? Like, we kind of lost track of it.
It's an interesting point, because continuous improvements can only be continuous if you do it consistently, right? Doing continuous improvements on a yearly basis does stagnate growth, right? So doing that kickoff today, and then in 6 months, you're like, oh, we didn't really work on this that much. It's going to stop the business from growing, especially when it comes to the processes and the technology, because yes, you've put a new process or a new piece of tech in place, but 6 months later, the data isn't flowing as accurately, or you have new data requirements, or you just have a different shift because your business has pivoted significantly. Not doing that monthly, quarterly check in terms of your processes could really damage the business. Have you got an example in mind of a business that went through a finance transformation and it just worked out really well?
So let's think of one that is somewhat relatable. So yeah, I've seen businesses, like you had this online retailer, and they wanted to move off their, so firstly they were doing all their accounting in spreadsheets. And
we have a client right now that we're transitioning from, pure Excel, and we're now implementing, the right ERP, putting in place the right tools, the right processes, and such a big change.
Yeah.
It literally went from a P&L that is created based on 15 different sheets to one specific central piece of software that collects information from another 5 or 6 different tools, and then able to continuously improve on what the business is actually doing, how well it's doing, what are the different segments, and how profitable and efficient each one of these little GLs are actually moving forward with. So Yeah, apologies. I just got too excited with the
Clearly
client that we're
you're
putting
really,
in place.
like spreadsheets was the word that
Yeah,
kind
it
of
just
set you off
triggered me.
then.
It triggered me. Like, just don't say spreadsheets around me. Like, I'm just gonna get frustrated.
There was a client with an Excel, and that client
Just flip the table at this point.
so that client, they were an online retailer. They had their Excel for their accounting, so all their bookkeeping work, and it wasn't really being done properly. They were just kind of recording what expenses they had. They then had their online store, wasn't talking to this, so their sales going through their inventory on there, but then none of it was talking to each other. So like then there are multiple bank accounts. None of them were talking to. Well, it wouldn't be talking to the spreadsheet. It wouldn't be talking to the online thing because they had a separate payments portal. Everything was disjointed basically, and they're almost flying blind because they don't really know, other than just seeing the sales come through. They're not able to reconcile the three, right? They're not able to reconcile the sales with the bank account, and they're not able to draw insights from their data at all. And it just became really laborious. And not only that, they were spending their evenings and weekends doing like bookkeeping because they wanted to save money as well, so they're doing it themselves. And I think it's quite a good thing to do early on, to understand the mechanics. So if you've got that in you, it's good to understand the finances of your business. But they weren't really doing it right, so they weren't using the accounting software. They were spending so much of their time, and that really, as a small business owner, it eats up your energy. You need that downtime whenever you get it, and to be spending every living hour of your days, of your weekends, doing something that, again, it's not the core part of your business. You're selling t-shirts online or whatever it is. That's not what you're not into business to do your accounts in a spreadsheet.
Yes.
That's not why you're doing it. So, but you're spending a disproportionate amount of time doing that, and you're not really getting the benefits from it either, because you're not doing it the best way possible. So what we found was that actually, when we implemented, it was Xero at the time, and then we connected it to their Shopify, and we connected it to they had bank feeds. This was back in the UK, so then they had bank feeds there, and all three together meant that this stuff was happening a lot more automated way. So there was rules that were set up to help with that reconciliation. They were using an OCR tool to help bring the data in and to extract the data from the receipts and invoices. All of this meant that they got their weekends back, which is amazing, because this is also like a mother, right? She's got kids, she's also a wife, she's got a husband. You want to be spending your weekend with the people that you love, and not spending it in a spreadsheet.
In a spreadsheet, yeah.
Which might trigger you in the same way.
Absolutely triggers us. I'm so close to just flipping the table at this point.
Well, exactly.
Now, for you to be able to do that, or for this specific business to do that, they had to speak with an expert. Now, in this region, who are the experts, and how do we find these experts?
I'd say there's few and far between. So like, you've got your pure tech guys, and I think we're kind of in that category. So we are a company that will marry you up with the right tech, for cloud-based technology, lots of it around your finance function. So we understand cloud-based technologies, cloud-based software, specifically for SMEs. So we've got that in our arsenal. But then you've got firms, I guess similar to your Finalytics, right? Firms that are providing, in your case, like finance as a service, but you have tech kind of weaved into everything that you do. So there's expertise within teams like yours, and there are also there's other firms out there that are technology minded, but I'd say in this market they're few and far between, in all honesty. Over here, people are very much stuck in a rut. I haven't seen finance as a service anywhere in the market, so you guys, or anywhere in the world, in all honesty. If they're out there, they haven't marketed themselves to me well. So I haven't seen that, but essentially having the tech, having a firm which has technology weaved into its fabric, is a really good source of guidance, particularly in the area that you're looking to streamline or you're looking to improve. So yeah, there's firms out there. You need to look for it and know that it exists, but also firstly recognize that you've got challenges in your business, firstly, if you're feeding those challenges, there's a good chance that someone else is, and there's a good chance that there's a solution out there. You just have to seek it. And yeah, I'd say over here, the one of the issues is that there aren't enough of these businesses that are willing to help, which is good for you and I, because we can mop up in some ways the businesses that, that do need help.
No, absolutely. It's first of all, thank you so much. That was really, really kind of you to say. The concept of finance as a service is absolutely new, especially in this region. There's a couple of players globally, but we are taking a very different approach, which is we're not just putting in place a small, finance function. No, we're taking years of expertise and experience from the multinational experience that the team has in terms of tech implementation, software implementation, process re-engineering and optimization, merging it all together and then packaging it at 1/5 of what it would cost you to do internally. And that's one of the main things that we've given to our clients, which is being able to 10x the output that they would get from the existing finance department or finance team, right? Now, one of the main things that we focused on is from their finance technology or from just their tech landscape overall, turning it from a cost to a profit-driven methodology and approach, right? Have you looked into that when you're speaking to customers? How do you turn their current software costs into profit-driven approaches?
The thing that you need to be able to do that is there's a couple of different things that you can look at. Firstly, it's efficiency and looking at the time saving. If you can equate time to money, then it's quite easy to show the ROI. So let's say, for example, you've got, and we've seen this before, so we've been compared, like let's say how you do your accounting and your reconciliation in old desktop software versus how you do it in something like Xero or a cloud-based accounting software, which is more modern. And when you've got like someone manually typing things up versus someone using an OCR tool, like a Dext or a Blue Sheet or whatever it might be, or a HubDoc. And then you can actually, let's run that in parallel, right, for one of your clients. And let's see how quick this does it. And then you'll be able to see the time saving and say, okay, so we've saved, let's say for this one client, 3 hours of time. Let's be conservative. It can be a lot greater, but let's say 3 hours. With that 3 hours, plus another 3 hours on the next client, plus another 3 hours on the next client, you've got a week of time to do more stuff. And then what do you do with more that time? You could take on more clients, right? That's one way where you can monetize this thing. The other way is, well, we've got some guys that were junior, but actually they've really proven themselves and they're ready to take the next level. Or we've got some seniors that are ready to really push up and take on more responsibility. Let's retrain some people.
Beautiful.
What a better way to retain your best talent than to retrain or to upskill individuals. You might want to dabble more into something like advisory or new service lines, whatever they may be. So you're now broadening your service offering essentially beyond what it has been. And that's another revenue opportunity for you. So that's how you can do it. It's either take on more clients with a time saving or use that time to upskill and deliver something new. So you're bringing in fresh revenue into the business.
And these are the benefits of doing a tech implementation properly. It's curious that you mentioned identifying time and mapping that to, currency, right? One of the things that we saw very recently, as we're doing a transformation for one of our clients, we're looking at their O2C process, and in particular, we're looking at the creation of a quote, how that quote was created, going through the approval flow. Once approved, then the client would manually create the invoice using a pro forma or a template they had on Excel.
Mm-hmm.
The salesperson would complete this. They would then share this with finance. Finance would review and then send this to the client. The client would receive it, maybe make the payment. If not, then the work would still be delivered, and finance wouldn't know if the payment had been done or not. Neither would sales, so they'd have to physically check. And as you can imagine, once the payment is done, there's a whole process of going into the bank account, making sure that that payment matches this invoice, and there was only partial payment, or there was an overpayment, and therefore there's a credit note that needs to be put in place, or a refund, or whatever it is. That process took so much time, so much effort, and I think we calculated it that it was around, I think 2 FTEs, full-time employees. So I think that's calculated based on 1 FTE being 40 hours for the week, right? We looked at that process and we implemented a bunch of tech, right? So we implemented a piece of software that automated the link between, once the quote had been approved by the client, it automatically created the invoice on the accounting software. Once that's created, it automatically sent it to the customer with the right information that was pulled from the quote that was approved. So that meant that a process that took 3 or 4 different people in about 4 days to complete was now done in about 25 seconds, right? And that's the importance of getting the right people and the right tools and the right processes in place, and being able to turn a huge cost, not just in terms of monetary cost, but also time, into a significant saving, right? Because the monetary gain, sometimes it's new revenue generated, but sometimes it's also the time and money that you save. One of the things that I absolutely loved that you said was being able to upskill your people. A lot of businesses think, and a lot of, especially in the more junior roles, they think that by implementing certain technology, that their jobs are going to be at risk because they're not going to have to put that invoice or book that invoice manually. They will probably think, oh, if I'm not doing this, then what am I going to do? How do you help business owners and the right people understand that journey in terms of educating, learning, upskilling yourself and your team?
Yeah, it's a real mindset shift, I think, for lots of businesses, unfortunately. I've seen some very old school practices in lots of organizations. I would say the most forward-thinking businesses generally have nailed this. I mean, no one's perfect, but they've had a really good go at understanding that upskilling your people and retaining the talent that you've got is far greater than looking to bring in new talent from outside that you then have to bring up to speed, and then they just become compliant. I would say, look, the biggest incentive you have, particularly if you're an SME, the biggest incentive you have to upskill people within your team is that you don't want to be a bottleneck in your business. You don't want to be getting involved in the day-to-day every single day for the rest of your life for that business to be a success. My vision for Scope is that one day I'm able to detach myself from the day-to-day operation, right? So that I can do other things. It's not in your interest to kind of own all the knowledge that other people will be dependent on. You want people in the organization to get better and better, and actually to be more intelligent than you in many areas, so that you can feel comfortable handing over the reins at the right time.
Yes.
So it's all about succession planning. It's also about, you're one person. There's only so much you can do and do well. Your time, you're probably already feeling stretched. What you need is a team of people that contribute towards your goals, that you can trust. And to do that, you need to be encouraging them to learn more. You need to make sure that they're getting upskilled. Not only will you benefit from it as a business, but also you'll make sure that you retain that talent, rather than you having gone through all those years of training these guys up and giving them experience for them to jump ship.
Yeah.
And then you have to start again with someone new. It's just not the same. So it's really important that you make the most of the guys that you've got, And yeah, the proof is when one day you're able to take a step back from your business and still enjoy the fruits of all your labor, and then you can take on a fresh challenge, because at some point you will be bored of what you're doing and you'll want to make that move, and you want to just spend more time with your family if you've got one, or whatever it is you want to do. Go out to Dubai Marina and take your yacht out at that point. Who knows?
Yeah,
I know that's what you do normally.
No, not at all, not at all. I take two out. Yeah. Now, let's talk about the specific scenario. You've onboarded a new client, right? And they have all the best possible intentions in terms of improving their finance function. What elements of the finance function would you prioritize in terms of going through the transformation?
Firstly, I'd say a foundational thing is having your books kept in a cloud-based software. Like, that's just the essence.
Basics.
If you haven't done that, and I'm going to assume for this example that we have done that, because otherwise it would be a really short answer. I would say initially that's where I would focus, get that bit done. And then I'll go a little bit further just so that it's not a short answer. The next area I would try to prioritize is the bit before, the pre-accounting bit. So let's try to make that bit as efficient as possible. And I had this...
Define pre-accounting.
Yeah, so I was going to do that. So the next bit is... What do I mean by that? So accounts payable, I would say, and automating that side of it as much as possible. You can do accounts payable, but let's focus on the payable side. So any bills, receipts, invoices that you might have to pay, rather than manually typing these up one by one and then having to take a photo of it and scan it in and attach it against your records, you can actually do that bit up front. So you can scan if you want, or you can forward on an email that you've received of your invoice, or you can take a photo of a bill which someone's given you by paper, or a receipt from the coffee that you had, that we had.
So many coffees.
We've had a lot of coffees.
So many coffees.
And you showed me your kind of little Pluto. I remember that.
Yeah. When I was with the guys.
Yeah, when you were with the guys, and the WhatsApp, like we did all that. But you can take
little plug there.
Yeah, we can take you can take photos of your receipts, right? And the details from those receipts will get taken out. It'll get put into your accounting software. The first time you can teach it how you want it coded. The next time it will know how to do it. When I've seen this done well, right, you can literally save 90% of the time that you're spending manually typing stuff up. That's like if your goal is to save time, that's where the biggest win is. If your goal from there, once you've done that bit, if your goal then is, I want to know more about my business, I want insight, I want to know how this business can grow, you've done the hard work of getting the stuff in your accounting system, that's when a reporting app, some kind of insights analytics tool is going to be so important, because it can do your cash flow forecast, and you can know, hey, we've got a big bill coming up, I don't have enough money coming in, I need a loan, I need whatever it is, I need some money, bank of mum and dad, whatever it is, you need some money in. Like, you need those insights, and that's where the tools can help you.
Absolutely. Or just knowing what your accounts receivable actually looks like, and being able to understand from your cash flow, you have this huge bill due in 2 months' time. From my statement of accounts, I know that these specific clients need to pay me because they're 2 months overdue. Let me go and follow up a little bit more aggressively now, right? A lot of businesses don't have that insight.
Yeah.
A lot of businesses do their follow-ups manually, right? And that's all well and good. After a certain point, the first set of follow-ups and reminders should be automated. So being able to put in place these very specific cadences, for us, because we do this day in and day out, it's pretty straightforward. But for a lot of businesses, being able to streamline their AP, right, their pre-accounting, being able to understand what invoices are actually outstanding, it's a lot of work. And we've had interactions with clients that and prospects that would literally say, I'm not sure how profitable I am. For me, it's not acceptable to be in that situation, right? It's simply something that isn't good enough. Now, if it's not good enough, then it means that there's an opportunity for you to put something in place that is beyond good enough.
Yeah.
One of the key foundations of Finalytics isn't about satisfying the customer, it's about delighting them. And that's not just in terms of the tools that we put in place, right? It's not just in terms of the processes that we optimize and continuously improve on. It's also the experience, right? Being able to receive a query from a customer through Slack or Teams or WhatsApp, and
It's big
having
here,
that.
WhatsApp. You gotta have
It's
WhatsApp
huge.
here.
Oh yeah, it's just the amount of WhatsApp groups that I'm on, dude. But being able to respond and still keep that human element is critical. Now, how do you still take that into consideration when it comes to, yes, you've implemented all of these tools. How do you keep that human element in?
Yeah, so it's really important with once you've got the tools in there, and we touched on this really early on, it's you cannot ignore the people side of this. Like, it's all good and well getting a tool in there that's going to do something, but you're always going to need people, and making sure that the people are getting from the systems what they want. Either their lives are being made easier, or they're getting newer bits of information that can help them make better decisions that will help their businesses grow, right? These are the things that are going to really benefit them. I would say if you've taken those steps and you've got the systems in place, fantastic. You know, that's really, really good. But then you need someone to help you interpret it. And that's where advisors, people come in. You know, the AI is not that good yet. It's not replacing you guys anytime soon.
Absolutely.
You need people to then help you sift through all of that data and work out which insights mean something to me, from someone that understands my business. Someone who understands my business knows what are the KPIs that matter to me, because there's so many different key performance indicators across a business. But depending on the stage of your business, the type of business that you're in,
Industry, everything.
the industry, your own personal situation.
Yes.
You know, have you funded this thing yourselves? Have you got VC backing? Whatever it is, right? Like, all these factors come to play when you need to make decisions about your business and about what to do next. That's where advisors like yourselves are so important. And having someone that's tech savvy, that understands the tools, but also understands the financial implications of the decisions that are going to be made, it's priceless. It's literally the thing that will make or break the business in many cases. And so many SMEs fail, particularly after the first 5 years. And we know, I've seen research in the past that says, I can't think something like they have a 30% greater survival rate if they work with an advisor. You know, it's a no-brainer, really.
Absolutely. Final thoughts. If you were to give a listener or the listeners some piece of feedback or one piece of recommendation or advice in terms of their financial technology implementations and so forth, or just in general how to follow the North Star and what to do, what would it be?
I would say don't talk yourself out of trying something new, because so many people will convince themselves that because it's not broke, there's nothing to fix. And that can be true in some cases, but not across your whole organization. It's really important to always be looking forward and looking ahead. So my advice is, take a look at what's happening in the market. Take a look at other markets that have maybe developed a bit further. Speak to people that you trust and listen to their advice. Try something small and kind of incrementally get better and better and take on more. Don't try to, rewrite the whole kind of chapter of your business through technology overnight. It needs to be a gradual progression. So just take one little bit and get a little bit better at that. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, you try something else. Don't assume just because you've tried one thing that there isn't room for improvement. There's always room for improvement. So it's just about being constantly on the search for it and always looking to get better.
Amen. Chief Tech Habibi, thank you so much. This was absolutely wonderful. You're an amazing person to work with. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way?
I mean, if you want to follow all the Chief Tech Habibi stuff, there's always LinkedIn, right? But no, you can feel free to go on our website, scopesolutions.me. We've got a contact form on there. Reach out, me or the team will kind of get back to you. But yeah, feel free otherwise to hit me up on LinkedIn, and I can tell you about all my Chief Tech Habibi tips.
Yes, sir. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time. And let's grab another coffee.
Thanks, it's been a pleasure.
For the business.